seasoned marketing professional whose career spans nearly every corner of the marketing industry. With a rare blend of client-side, agency-side, and media experience, her comprehensive and uniquely insightful perspective set her apart as a transformative account and independent agency leader here in the Sacramento region. Today, Lori channels her expertise as an agency advisor and collaborator and is a member of the 4A's Expert Network, specializing in transforming account teams into proactive leaders and drivers of growth. She recently published her first book, woo! The Agency Within Us, a roadmap for agencies looking to elevate their client partnerships and internal leadership. So everyone, please welcome Lori.
All right, let's see how this is going to work. Glasses, on, off, on, off. Let's try it. Okay, how does this work? Yes, okay, got it, back. Okay, all right, I'm ready. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to be here today. Molly, thank you so much for that introduction. And I have to tell you guys, because I'm new to this speaking thing, every time I hear my bio read, I have like an out-of-body experience. It's so weird. Anyway, I'm back, my feet are on the ground, so let's do this. Okay, my theme, as Molly said, is parallel. And so my challenge was to figure out how to work this idea into the thing that I'm working on and passionate about, which is empowering account leadership in ad agencies today. And I can't say that the connection hit me right away, but I did some research on the idea of parallel, and I found something that led me to a place that I think made a very clear connection, not only professionally, but also for us, in our lives in general. And so before I really dive in, because this is very specific about some of the functions within an ad agency, I don't know that all of you are completely familiar with the inner workings of an ad agency, because if you didn't work there, why would you? So this is just a made-up agency, and what you see here, these circles around the outside, these are the disciplines or the areas of expertise that could exist within an agency, right? So you've got strategy people, media people, creative people, that could say design, data and analytics operations. In the middle, you have clients, and then you have the account group. And the account people are the focus of the work that I do. And so typically, a client is assigned to an account team. And while that account team is certainly their day-to-day and key point of contact, communication is really just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what that role is about. It's intended to be a really robust role that touches literally every aspect of the client-agency relationship and all of the, the work that goes on within the agency. And at the risk of oversimplifying, if the account group is really firing on all cylinders, then that client-agency relationship is probably fairly healthy, right, and poised for growth. And if they're not firing on all cylinders, that's not good. It's not good for the work that we do, it's not good for the agency, and it really is not good for the client, okay? So, here we go, back to our parallels. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. Raise your hand if you all know what this passage is. Does anybody recognize this passage? Yeah? Okay, good. I'm not the only one. I'm not dating. Just call it out. Anybody? The Tale of Two Cities, that's right. It's a classic book by who? Dickens. Yep, Charles Dickens. So this book, Charles Dickens wrote this book in 1859, and which is a long time ago. And yet the premise of it, right? Like times of upheaval, enlightenment versus darkness, the tension between being able to really kind of proactively shape the future of your life versus feeling like you're trapped by forces that are beyond your control. Do these things sound at all familiar? I know, thank God, I'm not the only one. So it's a really heavy story, right, set in the French Revolution, very heavy themes, again, upheaval, power, religion, and spirituality. And I swear to God, these are not the topics that I'm going to be talking about today. Not on Friday at 9 a.m., probably not ever. But I am really fascinated by the idea of authors writing these classic pieces of work, right, where what they were describing and writing about the human condition or the human experience that was somehow, incredibly relevant and powerful in the late 1800s and still feels relevant to us today. That's just, that's crazy to me and fascinating at the same time. And so at its core, this is really a story that's about the forces that shape us, the choices that we make, and how as humans we navigate chaos. And so that's my focus for today, is really what I'm hypothesizing as a timeless parallel and universal struggle between reactivity and proactivity, okay? All right, so I did something crazy. I rewrote what is probably one of the most famous passages in all of literary history, but I did it to try to make it even more connected to our times today. So if you look at this one, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of opportunity and the age of overwhelm, because come on, it's overwhelming, right? Today, living in these times today, we live in a world that's moving faster than ever before. More demands, more expectations, more notifications. And the truth is, the chaos can really suck us in, right? It can suck us into feeling reactive and overwhelmed and under-inspired, and maybe like we're operating on autopilot. And it's not just in our careers. This might be, in how we feel in our lives. It's in the choices that we make every single day, the way we show up in relationships, even how we approach our health. But in the middle of all this, there's something interesting that happens, where as professionals or even as human beings, we can exist on the same continuum, same world, same distractions, but some people have a way of sort of rising above and dealing with this chaos, even when they're knocked down, right? Or sucked into reactive mode, they're able to pick themselves up faster and really stay focused on a bigger vision for themselves, leading to a completely different experience. And so that's the tension that I really want to talk about today. It's that tug between letting life happen to us and actively shaping it, okay? Okay, so what's really happening in ad agencies today? Well, if you read the trades, it's not great. It's broken. A lot of people would tell you that the agency model is broken, that creativity is broken, and on any given day, AI is either the cause of our problems or it's the tool that's going to save us from ourselves. We don't know. Now, I don't pretend to be an expert in these things, and so I would never presume to tell you whether or not they're broken or not, but what I am an expert on, kind of what Molly touched on, is the account discipline within agencies, and unfortunately, it's a little bit broken right now, a little bit. Now, to be fair, we still have a lot of really excellent account people and legit superstars in this role today, but the problem is that they're more the exception than the rule, and that's not good for our industry, because they are the connective tissue in the agency, and again, in this client-agency relationship. When they're highly functioning, agencies and clients benefit in lots of ways, and when they're not highly functioning, well, it throws everybody off. So there's a great book, and if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it, called Radical Candor by Kim Scott, and this quote: "There's nothing more damaging to an organization than a problem that no one talks about." That's what's been happening with account management. That's it in a nutshell. As an industry, we've been continually changing and evolving over time, and the account discipline is the only one that really hasn't evolved, and you could argue it's actually gone backwards. I think they've been taken for granted very much, while newer, shinier objects caught the attention of leadership and their resources, things like data and analytics, like I was mentioning before, more innovative media technologies, and of course AI, which, that's all anybody can talk about. So in this ongoing do more with less reality that agencies have been having to live with really since the Great Recession, account teams have just been piled on, right? More clients, more work to do with less time and energy devoted to training and white space just for some thinking, right? And so now they're stuck. They're in this horrible reactive trap where they're just putting out fires, you know, pushing work through the system, moving fast, trying not to drop any balls. And because they think their job is to keep the clients happy, they think they're doing okay. But honestly, the awful, terrible word for the way I just described how they're functioning is order taking. And there's not an agency in the world that wants to be considered an order taker to their clients because it puts them in a really vulnerable spot. It makes that relationship less like a partnership and more like a vendor relationship, and that's not good. So even though it may seem like a good idea to follow the direction of your client, until some other agency walks in with another idea, and all of a sudden we're out and they're in, and that happens just like that all the time, okay? So we've got to figure out how to get away from just being about pleasing the clients and back into leading the clients, okay? Now, because we don't talk about the account teams nearly enough, we now have a situation where they literally don't even know that they're not doing the job that we want them to do. Human agency within an ad agency is actually a leadership accelerant. It's just fascinating. So, you know, by taking intentional steps to really further develop our human agency, we can actually also be furthering the qualities that help us to step up as leaders. I mean, that was new news for me. That's kind of the aha. Yeah? Okay. So this was the core message of the book that I put out in October of last year. Again, helping readers to kind of make that connection that activating the agency within us actually helps to unleash the leader within us, which is really, really fun. So I will say proactive leadership in this context is not dependent on titles, right, or seniority or job descriptions. It's about actions and behaviors and ownership, no matter what our role is in an organization. And so because of that, we all have choices, right? How do we show up every day? What do we want to where do we want to focus our energy? What kind of impact do we want to create, right? But leadership is also a choice for the people that do have the titles and the responsibility of running an agency, because the organization itself is going to either empower or constrain our ability to use and exercise our agency, right? Choosing leadership, if you're running an agency, means you have to reassess your organization and really probably make some different decisions, particularly for the people in the account group. We have to reassess the staffing and the structure and probably the processes, maybe even the culture and the politics within the agency, to make sure that we are creating the conditions for people to really develop the skills and the mindset for a new way of working. Now, it's true there are tons of squeaky wheels in an agency, and we all know the squeaky wheel is what gets greased. And so it's important that we let these executive leaders know what are those roadblocks that we need to clear in order to cultivate growth and truly empower people to be able to, right, step up into this proactive leadership mentality and approach. So how do we do it? How can we, you know, as individuals activate this agency within us and help unleash the leader within us? Well, it's not that hard. Here are a few examples of things that we can all do to do this. Starting with self-awareness. It's really important to understand our strengths, and I think that's something that we all try to do, but understanding your limitations also. If you understand both of those things, that's one of the ways that you can really move from being a good partner to a great partner. Fostering autonomy. This is not about going rogue, but about understanding the parameters so that you really can feel free to do your best thinking and your best work. Ask for stretch assignments, right? When we stretch ourselves, this helps us to understand our perspective of what's possible and what we can achieve. Think 2 steps ahead. You don't need to overhaul your whole approach overnight, but, you know, program yourself to figure out, how can I think forward, right? What is the next challenge that's likely to happen? What will my client and my teams need that I can provide even before they ask for it? Those are the ways that you can become really valuable. And then lastly, adopt an always learning mentality. And yes, there's a business side to this. You need to immerse yourself in all of the things that will help you to get smart in the businesses that you work in, but also engage in the culture. And you guys know this. Music, literature, photography, art is everywhere, and you never know where inspiration is going to come from. Okay, so we're going to go back now and revisit some scenarios where these parallels can exist. So in the workplace, right, two people can exist and can have the same job. One waits for assignments, the other seeks out opportunities, okay? In our health, two people may want to get in shape. One waits until they feel motivated, the other builds a routine and takes action even when it's not convenient. And in relationships, one person waits for their friendships to just kind of happen, and the other one really actively nurtures them and creates the kinds of connections that they want to have. So every day, in every situation, we can all make choices, whether we realize it or not. And the question is, are we being reactive or proactive, right? So I'm going to leave you today with this last question of what is the tale that you want to tell? And it could be a number of different things. Is it a tale of two mindsets? One that waits, reacts, and follows, and one that anticipates, leads, and takes action? It could be a tale of two futures, one where you wait for things to happen and one where you make things happen. It could be a tale of two paths, one of reactivity and one of leadership. Or it could really just simply be a tale of two choices. One keeps you stuck, and the other one moves you forward. And so really the best news is the choice is yours. So that's it. Thank you. Questions? Yeah, okay. Questions, anybody? Yes.
I feel like I talk to people that working in an agency is like a very polarizing decision. Like people either really want to work in an agency or they really don't. So in your opinion, this is a loaded question, but what kind of person really would succeed in an agency environment?
Well, there are lots of different roles, and the one that I just described is very much on the hot seat. There are other disciplines within an agency where somebody that doesn't feel like they want to be thrust into the craziness, they can find spaces for them. But it's one of those quintessentially work hard, play hard environments that is a stressful one. So you do need to have thick skin, again, in some of these disciplines, not all of them. So there's no perfect answer, Molly, but it's a crazy environment. I mean, you have to want a little bit of crazy to work in an agency. So. Go ahead.
The tale is too crazy.
One of the things I've noticed, I'm in the event side, and so work with a lot of agency partners, and one of the things I've really noticed is the trend towards pass-through billing on the agency side, where agencies have agreed to pass through costs at zero markup. And I feel like that has really driven kind of this race to the bottom in the agency world. Is that, it's more the event side than the ad side, but it's an overlapping world. Do you have thoughts on whether that, am I right, is that causing some of this, like letting the client bag the event? Yeah.
Well, compensation is like the gazillion-dollar question, and there's a huge movement going on right now to try to move away from really all of the old tired models. Like I was saying, it's broken. Value-based pricing is where agencies want to go. Productizing our services as opposed to hourly billing. Certainly a pass-through seems pretty dangerous, right? I mean, probably not helpful to the bottom line. But compensation is one of the things that's really creating a lot of angst right now in the business, and so, yeah, I wouldn't advocate pass-throughs anymore. Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for any software services that help link the product or the project management side and the billing side?
There are probably a lot of them. The ones that I'm familiar with, there's one that's kind of cool that a lot of agents, I think it's better for smaller agencies, it's called Workmajig. And it's very intuitive, and it's built for an agency, so it's fun, and it's very user-friendly. I think it may have some limitations that would then inspire people to move up to a different level, maybe something like Monday.com, if you guys know what that is. But agencies don't love these things,
No.
just in general.
No.
So it's hard. Basecamp, is one of the old standbys, and I'm a fan of Basecamp primarily because my older leaders could figure out how to use it, and that made it good. But there's no silver bullet there either. It's hard. Every agency is unique. Anybody else? Are we good?
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for coming out this morning. Appreciate you. Grab a pastry, fruit, coffee on the way out. If you could fold your chair, throw it on the rack. We'll pull this out. And otherwise, we will see you next month. I forgot to put the slide. April 18th is our next event. So hopefully we'll see y'all in April. All right, have a great day. Thank you. Can we clap?